I was on Okinawa during the war, I said to myself, I said, I prayed to God. I said, God, I said, if I get up, get back home, I want a wife, somebody, a wife, and I want a home, and let the rest of this stuff go. Forget it. And I wanted a dog. There are children. I said, God, it's children. I'm not worried about having children.
You didn't want kids?
I'm not worried about that. Because I tell you why I'm not worried about kids. I'm a very strict person.
Are you really?
Very strict. And
you do eat a healthy diet, so that makes sense. You eat a very strict diet.
Well, my mother taught me that, and my wife did too. And I can, if my kids, if I had a kid, if I had kids and they would get on dope and things, I couldn't take it.
You wouldn't be able to deal with it.
No, I couldn't deal with it.
Did your wife want kids?
No. You know, matter of fact, my wife couldn't have kids. No, and that didn't make it didn't make any difference.
I can tell because you was married for 63 years?
Yeah, no. And I wouldn't. I tell you, I asked God and I asked Him for everything. And you know, sometimes it bothers me because everything that I ask God for,
You got it.
I got it. Ooh. And now I think of that a lot. Everything that I wanted to do, God answered it, and I got.
Some people would say you're blessed and highly favored.
Well, that's what they say. That's what people say. I'm blessed.
What do you say? What do you think?
No, I got older brother and two under me.
You had 3 brothers.
I got 3 brothers. I had 3 brothers.
You outlived them all.
Yeah. And when I got married, we didn't have any kids, so I left her this time a little bit. I left everything to my baby brother. My baby brother, he was the baby of the family. And so I left. I made the will. I said, "Dog, is it okay? We don't have any children." And I said, "Can I let you?" Well, she had a godchild. And I said, "Well, what we do, we'll leave everything to my brothers and your godchild. That'd be our children." And I did that. And then within 2 years, my oldest brother got cancer. And he called me and said, "Ralph, we got cancer in the family," which is true, because my mother had cancer, and her side of the family had cancer.
What type of cancer?
Colon. And so what happened? He told me, and I went and see my doctor here in Kalamazoo when he told me. And I told him exactly what I'm telling you now. So he is really taking care of me. And he sees that I get my blood work.
Is he still alive, your doctor?
My doctor? Oh, my doctor was a young man.
Oh.
And he had to grow a beard like you got. Because some people say, "No, you too young. You too young. I don't want you my doctor." But he's a darn good doctor.
That's good. I'm glad you got a good doctor. Somebody taking care of you.
Because I called up Bronson. And because I was living in South Haven, but that's a Band-Aid hospital. And, well, I don't know. Bronson's got it now at South Haven Hospital. But anyway, if I hadn't got rid of my home, and that's why I moved up here in Kalamazoo. Because if I hadn't sold my home and been here, my wife only had 2 hours to live. But I was right here, and she was under the care of the doctors of Bronson Hospital, and they found it. Gallbladder collapse. So, That's a tricky thing they call that. And I almost died with appendicitis.
You told me that.
Yeah, when
told me
I
that.
was, yeah. And they just couldn't understand how I worked all day.
Neither can I.
And they said, you know, they asked me, said, you had been in service? I said, yeah. He said, usually a person will have appendicitis when they go through that basic training, straight, you know. But your appendicitis is right here on your right side. But you press over here on my left side right there, oh my God, I never had such a pain. It had stretched right there.
How were you working? How did you work? Did you just?
Well, I got, come on, I got a strong.
You got that old Navy mentality. That men of stealing ships of wood. That's the saying. And now they
Well,
say
I tolerate pain.
Oh shit, that's a different type of pain.
And I tolerate and so I went to the doctor's office. He said, I straight from work I went to him, and I said that was in Chicago, and he said he called the hospital and said make a bed for Ralph. I'm sending him over. I said, doctor, you can't do that. I said, my wife will have a fit. I said,
You worried about your wife? You need to be worried about not dying today, man.
But so I went over there and let me go home and see them. He said, now, Mr. Wise, if you get down, you got to go to the hospital now right away. But I had a wonderful neighbor next door, him and his wife. And so when I did, that pain got so bad. That I couldn't. Come on, my wife had an ice pack. You don't ever know, you know, and you put ice cubes in it, full ice. And she put it on right there on my stomach. And you know, in less than a minute that it melted. I was that much heat. Oh, yeah. And so they rushed me to the hospital. And so they was trying to call my doctor, and they couldn't get in touch with him. And Lorraine, my wife. Then I'll call her Doll a lot, and it's Lorraine is her name, but I call her Doll. And I said, Doll, don't worry, everything's gonna be all right. So,
How old were you in the shot?
I was about 28. Yeah, 28. 29. I'm about 30.
What? 60 years ago? 60 what? 60, you remember that? 63 years?
Yeah,
I be forgetting stuff I did 2 days ago.
I can't remember. Well, you got on your. What the reason for that for you is you got a lot of things on your mind. You know, I mean, your studies.